Hey everybody, I just wanted to jump on real fast. I ran across the file that I had from back in the 2020 election. Um, there's a few things I want to talk about. We've only got like 2 days. Today's Sunday, so you got today, Monday, and Tuesday to vote still, so please get out and vote. I just want to go over this document though. It's called Lest We Forget the Whores, and it's a copywritten document that you can find on mcsweeneys.net, and it goes over some of the atrocities that we suffered during the first Trump administration. And it's by keys and it's by date. I'm going to go over a couple of these, including sexual misconduct, harassment, and bullying, some of the white supremacy, racism, homophobia, transphobia, and xenophobia, his collusion with Russia, the obstruction of justice, some of his family business dealings. This document was put out and kind of classified by date, and so we've got before his presidency, and then it looks like, I'm just going to scroll down here real quick, it looks like it's probably going to go into once he was president. So let me just run through these really frickin' quick because it's just insane how much we have documented on him. I'll include a link to this document if I can find it again. We got a bunch of tweets, but let's see here. April 2016, Jill Hart accused Donald Trump of sexual misconduct. May 2016, Temple Taggart, former Miss Utah, sexually harassed her. June 2016, Cassandra Searles, Miss Washington, accused Trump sexual misconduct. October 7th, the 2005 Access Hollywood tape. These are just some of the atrocities towards women. October 11, 2016, Tasha Dixon, a former Miss Universe. We know about these. I'm just reminding you how many there were. October 12, 2016, and we know this shit's true. He's been found guilty in court, so all this shit's true, you guys. We can't let a sexual offender like this guy shouldn't even be running. I'm just going to keep going. Let's see, October 12th, we've got Maria Bellato, Rachel Crooks, Jessica Leeds, Mindy McGillivray, Jennifer Murphy, Natasha Stoyanov. Those are individual charges of sexual harassment and sexual assault. October 13th, Liz Boyne. October 14th, Kristen Anderson. October 14th, Samantha Holvey, Summer Zervos. October 15th, Kathy Heller. I mean, this is just insane. I'm going to go skip over these now. This is some of the business dealings. Ivanka Trump accompanied her father on his presidential interview in 60 Minutes. Ivanka's upscale jewelry brand used her father's political appearance to promote a $10,800 bracelet she had worn during the broadcast. So she's promoting business during a political broadcast. November 18, 2016, 1 week after the election, 100 foreign diplomats gathered at the Trump International Hotel to drink champagne and tour the building. One diplomat told the Washington Post, "Why wouldn't I stay at his hotel blocks from the White House so I can tell the new president, I love your new hotel. Isn't it rude to come to a city and say, I am staying at your competitor?" This indicated a conflict of interest that could have violated the emoluments clause. So he's getting money off of his hotels. Let's just skip through this bullshit. We know about the sexual harassments. We know about these business allegations. Let's get to some of these rollbacks. So January 1st, he rolled back Obama-era protections. Donald Trump's White House withdrew the Mercury effluent rule, which regulated the safe use and disposal of mercury. So here we're talking about regulations, and so during his presidency, he rolls back regulations, and then we have terrible things happening. And one of the things I can think of is that Palestine, Ohio accident with the train. These are regulatory problems. We have infrastructure problems. We have apartment building problems, high-rise problems because of regulations being dropped, our safety. In America, we take our safety for granted because we're protected in so many ways, and it's a good thing. If you've traveled overseas in certain countries, it's unsafe to even drive down the road. At night, you don't know if you're going to go off a cliff half the time. So regulations are so important. He also rolled back an Obama-era regulation that required oil companies to provide purchasing information. Dismantled the Johnson Amendment, which was a law which restricted churches and other religious institutions from taking a political stance. So now we've got this rise of extreme right-wing conservatives, and this is all tying into Donald Trump being this fascist, and this isn't political rhetoric, you guys. Having served in the military, this is me right here. So I did search and rescue for the Navy, and during my training, you know, we learned about intelligence gathering, espionage, counter-espionage, different things. And some people apparently pay better attention than others, because during the first election, when I was screaming about this guy being a racist and a danger to our country, I had so many people defending him that I had used to serve with, and they didn't understand the difference between making a oath to the Constitution versus making an oath to the president. It's scary, because now here we are with Trump threatening to use the military against the citizens. And this isn't BS, you guys. Back when he was president, he used the military during the Black Lives Matters riots, or that's what he called them. They were protests. They were peaceful protests. There was some violence that happened during some of the protesting, which typical. That's not representative of the protesters as a whole. But on this particular day, he marched out with one of his generals. I think it was Milley. He marches out, holds up his Bible. Conflict of so many interests, using the military. He wanted to oppress those riots. Now, if he comes back in again, he's threatening to use the military against his enemies. And when he defines his enemies, he defines them as Americans, the enemies from within. He specifically mentions Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and this is just freaking disgusting, you guys. This is the bottom of the low that any president can go, is using the military against the citizens. This is something that we're protected against. Let's see here. I've got a document that I did with some of the amendments that specifically protect us. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Okay, so I found this document that I prepared a couple weeks ago, and so it's discussing some of his comments, and specifically threatening to use the military against the enemy within. If you haven't seen the video, I'll go ahead and I'll insert the video clip below, but basically he has threatened Senator Adam Schiff, who's been a vocal critic He's threatened House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who's also been a vocal critic and a staunch opponent of his policies, a key figure in his impeachment process. So, these amendments, the First Amendment guarantees the right to freedom of speech. So, a president that tries to oppress anything that his critics have to say about him, including, his actions against Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, is a direct violation of these fundamental rights. The Third Amendment prohibits the forced quartering of soldiers in private homes. This amendment was born out of colonial experiences with the British military, and it reflects a deep-seated distrust of using the military for domestic law enforcement. It reinforces the idea that the military should not be involved in the daily lives of our citizens. Then you have the Posse Comitatus Act. Generally prohibits the use of the U.S. Army and Air Force, and by extension the Space Force, for civilian law enforcement. This law, passed after the Reconstruction era, aimed to prevent the military from being used to police citizens or enforce federal laws. It reinforces the principle of civilian control of the military and helps maintain a clear separation between military and civilian spheres. Then we got the Insurrection Act. It's about dealing with certain situations like an insurgence that requires the military help. It's an exception. So, for instance, the January 6th uprising, where they tried to storm the Capitol, interfere with the election, interfere with the peaceful transition of power for the first time in our country. That was an insurrection. Our military wasn't even used during that. Obama didn't call out the military. Nancy Pelosi didn't call out the military in any of the instances. Trump is threatening to do that. Basically, allowing for a president to use the military to enforce federal law when states cannot or will not protect civil rights. However, these exceptions are narrowly defined and require specific conditions to be met. Separation of powers divides the governmental authority among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. This prevents any one branch from becoming too powerful and helps protect individual liberties. So we have all these things entrenched in our history and the way we've been doing things, our norms, that Donald Trump has been violating. So additionally, consider the Fourth Amendment. This protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, further limiting the military's role in domestic law enforcement. This means you can't use the military for police work or enforcing local laws. It's made after Reconstruction era folks thought the military should just stay out of our lives. This idea shows that we're trusting civilians to keep the military quiet. The Fifth and 14th Amendments guarantee due process of law, ensuring that any actions taken by the military, even in exceptional circumstances, must respect individual rights. They make sure that the military does what it's supposed to do, and they make sure we're treated fairly. Even in rare situations when the military needs help, it has to follow a set of rules to keep our rights in the mix. A strong tradition in American history and political culture views the military's role as primarily focused on external defense, not domestic policing. The Constitution and laws of the United States create a strong legal and philosophical framework that restricts the use of the military against its citizens. While limited exceptions exist, you guys, they are narrowly defined and subject to checks and balances. This framework reflects a deep commitment to individual liberties, civilian control of the military, and the principle that the military's primary role is to protect the nation from external threats. So let's be vigilant and ensure that our elected officials respect the Constitution and the rule of law. This is so important, you guys. The military being threatened to be used against our citizens is the gravest violation, in my opinion, that Donald Trump has done. It's super scary. We've got our democracy as our number one issue. We've got women's abortion rights as our number two issue, you guys. It's only number two because without number one, we don't have number two. We gotta have our rights. If Donald Trump comes in, we are going to lose our rights. That's not hyperbole. It's not rhetoric. It's not inflammatory. There's plenty of evidence. Remember to vote, you guys.